Basil then orders his soldiers blind 99 out of 100 captives, and from the final soldier, they take one eye only.
The Varangians had the unique right of running as fast as they could to the imperial treasury and taking as much gold and as many gems as they could carry.
As he is charging across the battlefield, suddenly he stiffens in his saddle. Moments later, he collapses from his horse. He's died from a seizure before a single blow is struck and the rebellion is over.
Just a random seizure.
A seizure, and that's at the end of the rebellion.
What? Welcome back to the Village of Empires. My name is Seb, I'm with Rob, and today we're covering the Macedonian Dynasty of the Byzantine Empire. We tell the story of Basil the Bulgar Slayer and how his reign answers the question of how Vikings came from all the way up north down to fight for the Eastern Roman Empire. We'll also cover game versus history and dive into civ bonuses, unique techs, and more. So let's kick off. Rob, you have the prestigious honour of going first. I'm very much looking forward to what you have to say about Basil II, because anyone who has the Slayer in their title is going to be awesome.
Basil II, or Basil the Bulgar Slayer. So at 49 years total, he was actually the longest reigning Byzantine Empire in its 1,223-year history.
Okay.
Which is a pretty impressive starting point for him.
How many years did you say? I missed it.
49 years.
49 years of ruling. That's a long time.
Yeah.
Do you know how old he was when he came in?
Yes, I do, but I'll tell you later.
Okay, go on. Keep going on.
Okay, so I'm going to start, though, with how he earned his title, because I feel like, let's jump into the meat of the bones, then we'll jump back into some other storylines. It's the Battle of Kalaidion. It was fought in 1014 between the Byzantine and the Bulgarian empires. So the Byzantines dominated the battle, and they took 15,000 captives.
Okay.
Basil then orders his soldiers blind 99 out of 100 captives, and from the final soldier, they take one eye only. And that one guy would then lead the other 99 men back to Bulgaria.
Wow, this is like medieval stuff. I mean, obviously it is, but you know the kind of stuff that fantasy takes inspiration from. That's crazy. So are you saying that's like, is that the confirmed story? Is that like maybe it's the myth story? What do you think?
That is it. To be honest, people are kind of in consensus that it probably didn't happen like that. However, it probably didn't happen like that, but I'm going to go out on a whim and say that I do think it happened. There's enough kind of meat on the bones of the different stories that people told that it probably happened, but not at the scale in which 15,000. Potentially taking a zero off it, 1,500.
That's quite normal as well. Exaggerating numbers.
It could have happened, and it's actually a really common like technique of punishment in the Byzantine Empire was blinding. So I would say
I've heard of you. I don't know. Go back to the last episode. When Basil I, the founder of the Macedonian Dynasty, was actually considering blinding Leo a fair few times as well. Yep. So that actually makes sense because that's something that came up even then. But this is way far down the line. Do you know how many generations, how many emperors later Basil II is? 5, 6?
Around
something
that.
Like that, yeah.
But there's a lot of short reigning ones, so it's actually not a crazy amount of time between them.
Okay.
It's just a lot of short, ineffectual reigns between them. But another thing is it's the back to the propaganda element of this, because he didn't actually get the title the Bulgar Slayer until 150 years later, at the same kind of point in which the Byzantine Empire lost Bulgaria and the Second Bulgarian Empire formed. So you kind of would say it's almost like that, again, that to show them, don't mess with us. Remember, we got the Bulgar Slayer.
Yeah, okay. So it's like almost like a propaganda thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see that.
Although it's actually really common though that people get these like kind of titles long after their deaths. Like a really common, well-known one is like Alexander the Great didn't get it till hundreds of years later, and of course everyone knows Charles the Fat.
I don't know Charles the Fat. Who the hell is that?
It was the Carolingian Empire. He was one of the kings.
As in
called Charles the Fat, and he got years later. He got the.
Wait, what's the Carolingian? Oh, you mean the thing that would become France and Germany and Charlemagne and stuff? Yeah. Right. Okay. I don't know. Okay, that's fine. I don't know much about that part of history yet. We'll get there when we get there, but yeah.
Okay. So that's his title. But I want to talk about the Varangian Guard. Obviously, they're a major part of this civ. So, and how they all formed. So to do this, we actually have to go back to the start of Basil's rule to make it all make sense. So he actually becomes empire at the age of 5, with his younger brother being named co-emperor. But he doesn't actually take the crown until he turns 18. So that's when his rule starts, from 18.
Okay. Pretty young.
I'm not going to cover his early years between 5 and 18. I'm going to start from his 18 when he takes the throne.
Go for it.
And this story is very Byzantine. So I'm going to try and keep it as simple as I can.
Remind the audience what Byzantine means. I taught you last episode.
Yeah, I did. I hadn't heard about it until this point. It means that it's almost overly complicated and bureaucratic is actually the...
That's it. That's right. Yeah. I was remembering it off the cuff last episode. But yeah, I think that's more the official. So there you go. You want to impress people with your advanced English language. Mm-hmm. If something's a bit bureaucratic and complicated at work, just be like, oh my God, why does this have to be so Byzantine?
And you could throw in a little bit of history there. You can go, if you listen to this, I'm sure you love history. So
yeah. Why? If they say why is that a thing? Be like, have you ever looked into Byzantine history? Because I have, and I'm telling you now, it makes sense.
It's complicated. It's complicated, and they have a lot of bureaucracy. Oh. Okay. So the de facto emperor who had died that allowed Basil to take the throne, he had a brother-in-law called Bardas Skleros, and Bardas thought it was his time to become de facto emperor. It was quite a common thing where someone was named emperor, but they kind of didn't really rule. I mean, you remember from previous episode, Constantine VII, he barely ruled anything, and just
ended up taking it.
Romanos ai lekapenos.
Well remembered.
Hearing this, the head of the imperial government deposes him from his position of general in the east. This is Bardas. Deposes Bardas. But he manages to raise local support for his rebellion and marched and then sailed towards Constantinople with some defected naval commanders. Meanwhile, Basil recalled Bardas Phocas the Younger, different Bardas, who had been in the monastery for 7 years because he'd revolted against the previous emperor, the emperor who was his cousin, and as a reminder, was also the brother-in-law of the other Bardas.
Okay.
His cousin. So his cousin was the previous de facto emperor, who was also the uncle. So also the brother-in-law of the other Bardas who was about to rebel.
Right. I think I'm following. Keep going.
Okay.
The audience, I'm sure, is doing better than me.
Bardas Phocas, who was the one representing Basil, gathered an army and went out to fight Bardas Skleros. They fought 3 battles, in which the first 2 were actually won by Bardas Skleros, but the third battle actually ended with a duel between the 2 commanders.
Nice.
In which the Bardas representing Basil won, and the other Bardas's army disbanded as they believed their commander had died.
Right, but did he not die?
He didn't die. Spoiler alert, he didn't die.
Okay.
The story is not over. But so Bardas then comes back to Byzantine. He's a hero. He's a hero. He's being lauded as kind of the savior of Constantinople. So we're going to jump now to 985. Basil is now 27. To get you a scale of where we are, and he has been consolidating power. So, firstly, Basil places the head of the imperial government, the same one who deposed the other Bardas, under house arrest in Constantinople, and then later exiles him and confiscates his possessions. By the way, I never told you the name of that the head of the imperial government. Can you guess his name?
It's going to be something annoyingly already used. It's going to be a Basil. It's going to be a Constantine. It's going to be a Bardas. Please don't be another Bardas.
What's your final guess? Go for which one.
It's going to be another Bardas, isn't it? Is it?
It's a Basil. He's Basil.
Oh, it's another Basil. Oh, stop it. Get some new names. Come on.
Not just is he Basil. He's Basil Lekapenos. He's an illegitimate son of Romus I Lekapenos.
Ah, that guy.
It's all kind of... Everyone knows... It's all kind of a bit like... Everyone knows everyone. Everyone has a cousin. It's all family-related stuff, this is. following this, Basil, as in Basil II, attempts to weaken the overall power of the Phocades Lekopenos clan and their supporters across the empire. Cut to 2 years later, and Bardas Phocos, Basil Lekopenos, and Bardas Skleros, well, these three are no longer enemies. And they're scheming to take the power of Basil and divide the empire between them. He's been stripping power away from them, and they're not happy. And they're like, let's get an old enemy back who can help us take the power of Basil.
They're going to the original bad guy, Bardas. So both Bardases are about to team up.
Both Bardases are teaming up with a bit of Basil. Basil's obviously he's been exiled, but he's part kind of family now with Bardas Phocos, so he's like a part of that.
You know, I was about to say, let's call him Basil too. I just remembered, obviously, the Emperor is Basil II. Let's call it. Okay, go on.
Okay. So, Bardas Skleros raises an army again and heads back to Constantinople again. And Basil II then tries to give Bardas Phocos a promotion and set him off to what he did years earlier. However, the Bardasses, which, by the way, I was reading it, I was like, that's very close to badasses. But
the badasses, all right.
The badasses had already been scheming together, and instead, they united in a kind of rebellion against Basil.
Emperor Basil.
So Basil, he needs allies. He needs soldiers. But he's already been sending envoys to the Kievan Rus. So a quick sidebar about who the Kievan Rus are. So they're an East Slavic state of Varangian people. Varangian people are Norsemen who have traveled to that region, mostly from modern-day Sweden.
And it's my understanding that the word Rus, which means red hair, like it's like describing like them as redheads. So the whole thing of Rus comes from the Nordic people's red hair, so it's like Rus, which would later become Russia, and Kievan Rus,
even
which obviously
Varangian, I read something about. It's almost just it's just kind of part of it means just kind of outsider. So up until this point, though, they were still pagan. Obviously, they've got that Norse background. That's the pagan religion. But Prince Vladimir the Great, another the Great, and he's partly called the Great because of what happens next. He converted to Byzantine Orthodox Christianity in 988. And he also demanded his subjects are baptized, and that's kind of what he gets. He's a saint in the Orthodox religion.
Okay.
So Basil agrees that his sister would marry Vladimir, and Vladimir changes his name. What does he change his name to?
Don't tell me it's Basil or... Is it Basil?
It's Basil!
Oh, stop it.
So Basil then agrees to send Basil 6,000 Varangian soldiers to fight against the rebel. But he actually, by the way, he only takes the name as his baptized name. In official capacity, he's still Vladimir.
Okay, let's keep calling him Vladimir, please.
Yeah. All right. So thus the creation of the Varangian Guard, and thus their origins from Swedish Vikings.
Interesting. Okay. And so that makes sense, obviously, in AoE4, the Macedonian Dynasty is heavily themed around Varangian Guard. So it's like that kind of Viking Roman crossover, which makes sense, right? These people. Well, are you going to tell us more? I don't want to accidentally trip on your toes here.
You did say it. It might be that, but we'll.
Well, I was going to say, obviously we don't look up the same things, by the way, for new viewers. Yep. We split up the topics, we go and research them, and then we teach each other for the first time. But it's my understanding that I've sort of stumbled across the fact that Basil II he recruited a ton of these Varangian Guard to come and fight for him, and they weren't interested in the politics of the Byzantine Empire. They were there, they were loyal to the emperor, and so they ended up being like his special guard who uncorruptible, you could say. They're there for the money.
That wasn't true, but not entirely true, because they still kind of did get involved a little bit, but it's just more. It's less so. I think this whole when we get to the end of the story, you think about it. This guy, he started his rule. The guy before him, who was his regent or his de facto emperor at the point, got rebelled against by his cousin. He then, as soon as he takes the throne, gets rebelled against. Then several years later, he gets rebelled against again. Right. So you can kind of understand why he wants something outside of that kind of
outside of the politics, outside of the drama. and he recruited some hardy mofos to come and be his soldiers.
So the 6,000 Varangian soldiers who fought for him during his battle, they stayed. They didn't go back to. They were like a gift almost, and they stayed.
Yeah, I was just about to say. Am I right in recalling that the first ones were actually gifted to him? I'm assuming by this Vladimir guy.
Exactly. So it was part of this deal. So they reached this deal in the middle of this rebellion. So the timing was unbelievable for him. That he's got this rebellion started against him. He's been already sending emissaries to the Kievan Rus. He agrees midway through this rebellion to convert to Orthodoxy, and from this he goes. I agree to become part of your religion. I'll marry your sister, and then I'll send you these 6,000 soldiers at the turning of the tide. Bardas Skleras was already imprisoned by this point. Reminder, Bardas Skleras was the original rebel, not the guy who fought on Basil's side.
Okay.
But Bardas Phokas, which, as a reminder, he was one who was on his side, so he was his original ally.
Yep.
He's about to start battle with him. So the two armies are facing each other across the field. Both generals are at the front of their armies. They're leading from the front. These both guys, they're warriors. Bardas Phokas charges towards the emperor, again wanting to challenge him into single combat because it was successful for him against the previous fight. He wants to do the same thing again. As he is charging across the battlefield, suddenly he stiffens in his saddle. Moments later, he collapses from his horse. He's died from a seizure before a single blow is struck and the rebellion is over.
Just a random seizure.
A seizure, and that's it. The end of the rebellion.
What? Was he poisoned?
Yeah, that's it.
Was he not poisoned or anything?
Nope. And they got very clear evidence that this definitely did happen. He died from rebellion died from a seizure during his rebellion as he was charging.
Damn. Okay, so nobody else had to die then, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, then some fighting may have started. We don't know that for sure, but
gotcha.
But, yeah,
wicked. All right, well, there you go. Wow, what a story! See, they need to make a show. They need to make a show about these lot, mate.
Like that'd be such a cool little thing to be like, as a because the thing is, that's not even story over. So if you think about it, that's just kind of the end of the rebellion. He's still got years left of rule. So it kind of like it's always discussed as that the rebellions are kind of almost like a blessing in disguise. Because the Varangian actually remained the most effective unit in the Byzantine army. They're kind of what allowed Basil II to hit the peak of the empire size.
Right.
They were, because they were loyal to Basil alone, and part of it was actually because as well they were paid, we think, around 1.5 times the normal pay of the normal Byzantine army.
Oh, nice. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you've travelled a long way for the moolah, so yeah. That's okay.
And again, someone on Reddit mentioned that he thinks the relation to the Civ may be that they were paid in silver. I can't actually find any evidence of that.
I've got that in my section. Leave it to me.
I was going to say, if you did know, I was going to say, leave a comment.
I got it. Don't worry. Is that the end of yours?
That's the end of my segment.
Oh, wow.
So again, reminder to everyone though, a comment if you're liking it and leave a 5-star and a like wherever you're watching. We really like it. It obviously really helps the podcast. We're really trying to push it forward.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's a great reminder because we're terrible at this. But I hope you enjoyed the show. And seriously, we're so close to 1,000 subscribers, so it would help a lot. Thank you. Right. So Basil II, what an awesome guy. For me, it sounds like the highlights. He struck fear into the heart of Bulgarians. And he hired a ton of.
He collapsed their empire.
Yeah.
That's what he did.
He hired a ton of Varangian guards, and they carried him to success. Yeah. All right. So,
by the way, I'm really interested when you say that you know the sort of things. I really tried to find it, and I couldn't find strong evidence for it. So let's see. So
I found something that which will answer the question. It will answer the question. So. Thanks for that. So that was the story segment. My segment is diving into the game mechanics and doing a game versus history. If you haven't played the game, it's all good. For you, it will just seem like a series of fun facts. So you can think of it like that. So without further ado then, Rob, you're going to be my assistant. I'm going to ask you, for every single game mechanic, I have one slide just to help the people who are watching, listeners. You're not missing out on anything essential. But it kind of adds that visual aids to support in the process. And we're going to play a mini game. For each thing that we cover, we're either going to give a 1 point or minus 1 point to the game or to developers.
Okay.
Based on whether it's historically accurate or not. No such thing as zeros. You have to choose one side or the other. -1 or +1.
All right.
And I want you to keep score as I tell the story.
Yeah.
Cheers. All right, then. Without further ado, you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do this. Civ bonuses. Galena Gathering. This is the bonus that allows them to collect silver as a 5th resource. Galena is a metal ore, which I'll flick to an image now, is a metal ore that has things like lead in it, but more importantly, it has silver in it. And to answer your question before the show started, Rob, no, there's no gold in there, as far as I'm aware. I think it was like lead.
Yeah, I saw
lead
this picture.
sulfide,
I saw it.
Like
It looks like kind of goldy, silvery. I was like, oh, is this like explaining the whole concept?
Yeah. So Galena is the ore essentially that you extract silver from. So actually, it's bang on, and that's a +1 point to them. So I don't know if you got your pen and paper. You want to write that down?
No, I'm ready. Yep.
Nice. Next one is silver minting. This is essentially turning silver into silver coins. To be used as a currency. This actually goes way back. It goes as far back as ancient Greece, ancient Persia, and used by various other civilizations throughout time, including the British, for our pennies up until about 1700s or something like that at some point. So that's kind of cool. I think occasionally still people come out with limited editions. I saw one from 2004, like coming out of the United States. We the People. It looked really awesome. To be fair, it was a nice coin. But generally, it's not so much used nowadays as like a everyday coin, right? But back then, in some of these places, it was. The Byzantines, however, is not one of these places. The Byzantines primarily used gold as their coins, and they had copper as their secondary coin. You know, every currency has like a smaller copper. Yeah, so they had copper for that. They did have silver, especially a lot at the beginning of the empire, which you talked about last episode, Rob.
Talked about last episode, yeah.
But it kind of faded out and it stopped being used. And it was pretty rare. But Basil II actually brought back the use of silver coins, which we didn't know in the last episode because we hadn't covered that far in the scope. So now I'm thinking that was a decision by the developers. It was like, okay, that makes sense. Macedonian Dynasty brought back silver as a thing. But here's the thing. There was like one coin, which by the way, you can find on eBay. I saw it on eBay with including shipping, about £100. You can buy.
By the way, I do love like really historical coins. It's like it seems to be like it's weird. Like if there's anything from history that I could own, obviously number one would be cool swords and things like that. But number two for me would be coins.
Really?
I think I really like them.
Well, like you forgot to change slide, you donut. So jump over and let everyone be able to see the coin. There we go.
Nice.
So hit up eBay if you're looking for it. Add it to your collection. Basil
I mean, I'm not. I think £100 to me might be a slight bit steep.
All right. So I was like, okay. It turns out it was pretty rare, even though he brought it back a little bit with a particular coin. And then I was like, all right, is that a point to the devs or minus a point to the devs? And then I'm like, I would forgive it, because obviously the Civ is massively themed around Vikings, Varangians. I would forgive it if the Varangians were paid in silver. Because if that's the case, and I'd be like, okay, that makes sense. I see the connection.
Yeah.
But they weren't. they were paid
gold.
In
That's
the regular gold
yeah.
coins, same as everyone else.
Yeah.
And they also got the rights to loot, basically, after a battle, which is also how they got their wealth. And one more thing I'm going to talk about at the very end. But for me, that's a -1 points to the devs. So unless you're going to challenge that...
I agree with you as well. I agree with you.
The next one...
I was going to fight you if you tried to say it was, because everything I found, I was like, this is not that accurate.
The next one. Go next slide. The Varangians... So Varangian smithing is the next one. And there isn't much here, really, other than the fact that the peoples of Scandinavia... historically they had strong smithing traditions, but this isn't anything specific to Varangians.
That's not unique to them, really.
Yeah,
everywhere
or
had strong smithing. And...
I think the people of Scandinavia are like a little bit more fame around their smithing, but it's not, as I was just about to say, like it's actually not that uncommon of a tradition. So they're being a bit broad with this one. So like to have a separate building and everything for it, the arsenal and things, I'll give it a pass. I think it's okay. I don't think it's not like untrue, I guess. And while the Varangians themselves didn't do it, they have smithing techniques Well, who knows? So I'll allow it.
Do we know if they when they join the Varangian Guard, maybe they did, because do we look into it at all where you go, do they smith them, they have to do like, make their own armor, bring their own?
I do not believe so because of some of the things I'm going to say later.
Potentially then I would say this is a negative to me.
I feel like I'll give it a pass. They're Norsemen. Norsemen are all good at smithing.
Every single one of them.
Yeah.
Every single one of them. Good at
I don't know. Okay, I'll let you have the final say. Minus or plus?
All right, I'll give it to them.
It'll
to be
be
fair,
nice.
like when you find things that relate, I think it's enough.
It's just about enough, and it's just about enough.
Yeah.
If you disagree with us, let us know in the comments. Not only does that support us because it helps the algorithm, but also we can chat to you as well. The next one, Varangian Stronghold. This is another building they have which can now allow you to produce only specifically Varangian units, the unique units available to the Macedonian Dynasty. So the thing here is that the Varangians didn't...
By the way, I love the real building here. I think it looks awesome.
I'll touch on that. So the Varangians, they didn't actually build stone castles the way later Europeans did. It was more so like fortified trading towns, defended river sections. And if you Google these places today, like the image on the right that you said is quite cool, you can see they are made of stone. But this happened way later when they were rebuilt.
Right.
This one in this image is called Staraya Ladoga, somewhere in Russia, basically, the Leningrad Oblast. So the Norse, they would have used timber and defensive ditches and things like that. And given that the building in the game is just made of stone in all ages, it just seems like they just, unlike the other buildings that change through the ages, they just had this stone one and they kind of kept it. I don't know. That's a minus point for me.
I agree.
It's not the biggest deal, but I don't think that's quite right. The war camp is the next one. The Varangian war camp. So the Varangians, once they were in the Byzantine Empire, and this kind of goes back to some of the stuff I was saying before, Rob, I was like, this is why I don't think that they maybe had to have their own stuff. Maybe they did. I might be wrong there, but once you're in the Byzantine Empire, you followed Byzantine military structures, and that includes army encampments. So they never had their own separate places where it would just be like, the Varangians are chilling over like on their own camp over there, and the rest of Byzantine soldiers and the other people they've recruited around Anatolia and Italy and whatever. No, they would all be together in the same camp. So this
in the same camp, I thought about one thing I will say is that they would have had their own full companies, and a camp you probably would have been they'd probably be sectioned in the camp as their own full area.
Okay,
that's
fair
Varangian
enough.
area.
I can see that. I guess I was thinking of it as like a solo, completely by themselves, no one else around. They've got their own thing. Maybe I'm wrong, to be fair. Maybe I'm not giving the devs enough credit, because I was about to say, sorry,
because I've heard one thing as well. They get more of the loot as well. Even as well, that's the other thing that happens.
That makes sense. The loot thing I said earlier.
I've heard that. I heard one thing, which was when they went to battle, it would be 1/3 to the emperor, 1/3 to the Varangians, 1/3 to everyone else.
Oh, nice.
And they'd normally be the smaller number of the soldiers in the fight.
I didn't know that. Okay, well, you know what? I'm willing to withdraw my criticism, but I just want to finish off by saying, so in this image in the game, you can see that they've represented them with like a few tents and a longboat. And for me, it just kind of looks like they're trying to really tie into that, hey guys, these are Vikings. These are the Vikings that you remember, the ones that invaded Anglo-Saxon England. And, it's probably what their camps looked like back then, but I guess I got the impression that it wouldn't really be like that when they became Varangians way later in history, and also part of a structured military. But I could be wrong, so I was going to minus the point, but I'll let you go.
You have to also remember that the height of this was they would have only just recently joined. They would have still been a massive. I mean, think about 6,000 Varangians joined. They wouldn't have adopted the culture yet. They would still be their own peoples. They would still have completely bringing everything with them, I'd describe it as.
Sure.
And in terms of if they were going to build a boat, they would build the boat that they know.
Fair enough.
Build a Byzantine boat.
I get that. I guess I was thinking this is quite a bit in the future from when they were riding around with this stuff. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know.
It's in the heart of it, because they're it depends on what you're saying. Because as soon as this period, the Macedonian Dynasty, it runs until them being more embedded. But from the start of it, they were just 6,000.
You know what? That's a good point. You've changed your mind. I withdraw my criticism. I think it's okay. I think it's acceptable. We can give them a +1 point for that.
Let's do it.
The next one, I think, is very real and historical, and it's rune stones. And we know of at least 30 rune stones which talk about service, in the east, as they call it, which is their way of referring to heading over to Constantinople and supporting the cause. And these rune stones are found around Scandinavia, and they tell a story. So what are they? I mean, oftentimes you see these in fantasy verses, like being like magical and stuff like that. This is not the case in real life. They're just there to commemorate the men who died in battle, and to tell stories of like the journeys.
Very similar to what we do now.
Yeah, exactly. To stories to the journey to Constantinople, which obviously would have been massive for them, right? The participation in the Varangian Guard and their years of in service and things like that. So, yeah, obviously, like in the game, you could just plop them down and it gives you an aura and stuff. But that's fine. It's a game mechanic. You can't, it's understandable. The next one is Greek Fire, which I'm actually not going to talk about now because we covered it in the last episode. All I'll say is accurate, +1 point to the devs. The one after that is the Hippodrome of Constantinople, which we also talked about. Why have I focused on this landmark? Well, it's the only landmark which I could find that was really relevant to the Macedonian dynasty. The other ones that they share with the Byzantines, they're all applicable. They're all real things, but they I think we'll save them for when we do a series on the Byzantines as a whole, which makes more sense because they're not really that related. So for that reason, I will move past landmarks and just skip it as a segment. But again, if you want to know more about the Hippodrome, last episode, and if you want to know more about the Byzantines generally, subscribe to stay tuned for that because we got loads of good stuff coming. All right. What's the score at the moment?
What are we giving this for anything, or are we just mentioning it in passing?
I think we'll just skip the landmarks. No points then.
So we are at a +3, +5, -2.
All right, not bad. Not bad. Let's move on to unique units. Everyone's favorite, I suppose. The first unique unit is the Spearman Replacement. And in the game, they're called... Here we go. You ready? I'll be learning Old Norse for this. Atgir Mathur. So, okay, not sure if that's right, but it's got like those letters, like the O with the weird line and all this stuff. And it's
preparing for our Iceland trip.
yeah, absolutely. We're going to go. So... Atgir Mathur, it just means the Mathur part apparently means man of, and Atgir is the name of a weapon, which is believed to be a polearm, which looks like the one in this image, although it is a bit contested. I couldn't really find clear information around, like, is it one specific type of polearm, or is it like unknown what the polearm was? But basically, it's a spearman. It's just a way of saying spearman in Old Norse, which makes sense that they replaced that. I think it's another... I get the vibe that the devs are very much trying to be like, guys, these are Vikings. And I know what you think Vikings look like, so we're going to try and make them look like those Vikings. Because if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. How many people across, like regular people, you'd walk up to and say, hey, what do Vikings look like? And they describe the Varangian Guard. I would be willing to bet 0% of people.
Yeah, people will be doing is the hat with 2 horns on the side, which
exactly.
never been found to ever have existed.
Doesn't even exist. Yeah. So good point. So anyway, I give it a +1 personally. I think it makes sense to me. And remember that the Age of Empires 4 game has to have a spearman, it has to have a bowman, it has to have a knight equivalent. So it makes sense that they got to fill these roles.
And it's nice to use something unique that they did use, and if it's relevant to that period, I think that's fine.
Yeah, historical flavour. And this blade that's on the screen is the one that the unit holds in game as well. It looks just like that. The next one, Bog Mathur. Now you may remember what Mathur means. It means man of. Bog means bow. So bowman,
right? Man of bow,
which again is like just another way of saying archer, but it's giving it like a little bit of historical flair to it, the Old Norse terms. Yeah, I think there's not much else to say to that, other than perhaps that Varangians they did use bows, but it wasn't their signature weapon. But I think that's fine. Like they still use it. I think it's perfectly plausible that they could have used it. So
But then you think is I know that they've made the whole units Varangian, but you could have then done it as that's the Byzantine element almost.
Well, they have the Byzantine units in there. See, this is what I mean. Like I feel like they really wanted to be like, we want to make this Civ not the same as Byzantines, right? We want to make it feel like you're playing a different Civ, and the way we're going to do that is by making them as Viking as possible. So we're going to replace a lot of these things. But, you know, I don't know. You know what? Game mechanics, I'll leave you guys to debate and get angry about in the comments. But in terms of the history, I think it's okay. I think it will pass. +1 point there. And the next one is Ridari. So Ridari, this simply just means mounted warrior, again, in Old Norse. So same kind of concept as the previous two. But here's the one that I think is the least. I don't know. You can tell me, Rob, what you think. I'll let you decide.
Okay.
Varangians were famous for being elite infantry, so not cavalry. And there's not much to suggest that they served as mounted troops, let alone heavily armored to be the equivalent of a knight, like they are in this game. If they made them the equivalent of like a horseman, I'd be like, okay, horseman unit, okay. But it's just the knight, right? It's the equivalent of the lancer. And they already have the cataphracts in the Byzantine. So I don't know. They made that choice, and I think it's interesting. However, the Scandinavian warriors in general, they did include mounted fighters, especially in raids, and yeah, I don't know.
Again, if it's raiding, it's more gonna be horseman style again.
Yeah,
You don't raid full armor, ready for like a heavy combat sort of style.
I think if
That's
it
not raiding style.
passes, if it passes, it barely passes. I'll let you choose.
I don't think it passes.
It's a -1 then. The Ridari. It's almost like they could be in game, but their role should be different. It should just
exactly.
Because they use the Byzantine horsemen, but like, why? We just make it the Ridari.
Make these the horsemen instead. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess they wanted to keep the cataphracts as a game mechanics another time.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to tech. And for tech, I'm going to skip some of the super obvious ones. Like, I'm not going to talk about fortifications. I think we all know what a fortification is. So I'll focus on the interesting ones. And I'm going to cover blade inlaying and pattern welding in the same go. Two phrases I'd never heard of in my life. I don't know if you know anything about them, Rob, but it's quite interesting. So
inlaying and pattern welding
is the image on the left. Inlaying is basically decorating weapons, fusing or embedding different materials onto a surface of a blade. It's entirely decorative, and on this image here, you can see they're like engraving those classic Old Norse letters on the side. If this was a fancy universe, those letters would be glowing blue, like with magic and stuff like that. So
going blue when an enemy approaches.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, exactly. So I think that's fantastic. Clearly, that's very associated with the Scandinavians and the Norse traditions, and Varangians would I'm sure will have done this kind of stuff as well. So yeah, I mean, in the game, it gives you extra damage to cavalry, which is a weirdly niche decision for something that doesn't give any damage. But whatever, it's a game. It needs to. I think it's fine. And pattern welding, I've put them together because they're quite similar. It's also a decorative thing. On the picture on the right there, you have like a Danish blade, and it's what it does is it's in the smithing process. It happens instead, as opposed to afterwards.
It's like Damascus style in that sense.
Yeah, exactly like Damascus style. It's exactly like Damascus style. So it's different compositions and twisting techniques to create these pretty patterns and stuff. So again, decorative.
I believe because I know that there is some that it's not fully in the way, but there is some methods where you do this sort of thing and it does make the blade stronger.
Oh, okay.
I believe it's not. So I don't think that's entirely. I don't think it's entirely that it's just decorative. That one.
I was going
the other one definitely.
I was going to give it a point anyway. Because I think it's fun. I think that's perfectly reasonable. The next one is called butted chainmail. So butted chainmail is literally just like chainmail with the hoops that you're used to seeing. You can see this guy. If you imagine the classic Varangian Guard look, is that they're covered in this stuff. Yep. It's the rings that link together, cheap, effective, and it was very much used by Vikings, and still I know the Varangian Guard era as well. And they would eventually be replaced in Europe by something called riveted mail, but wouldn't have happened yet at this time. And yeah, I think it's perfectly fine.
Everyone be using this? Like everyone?
Wouldn't everyone? Yeah, I think so. In Europe,
like literally everyone.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think it gets a pass. I think that gets a point.
Are you sure? Because if everyone's using it, it's not really unique, is it?
I think it's sure. I don't know how many images you'd have to go back to see it, but I have a picture of like the classic Varangian Guard, and it's like an iconic part of their look, in my opinion. They've always got the head. They don't always have the over the head as well, but these guys do.
But I'd also say this is a classic look of a Crusader as well.
True, or just any European era sort.
Yeah. I just think it's a classic look. I'm disagreeing with you here.
But I don't think it's not anti-historical though, is it?
Yeah, it's not anti-historical.
It may not be flavorful, but it is.
No, okay, all right, I'm with you. I'll give it to them. I'm not happy about it, but I'll give it to them.
Let us know in the comments how you feel about that one. So the next one is called lamellar armor. And this is like those squares.
Like, I've heard of the actual armor and seeing it. Yeah,
it's also iconic to their look. You can see this guy on the left. He looks like he wears size XL, and he's cosplaying here, and he's got the lamellar armor here. So it's basically body armor in that it's got that individual plate look the Varangians are associated with. It's not exclusive to them, though. Just bear that in mind.
It's that region generally, isn't it? Because it's also the like the Ottoman style as well, after them as well.
Yeah,
like,
exactly, after them, yeah. But also all the way across the world in China, the Han Chinese use lamellar armor.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So yeah, this individual.
It's always fascinating with people so far apart kind of come up with conceptually something similar. I do find it so interesting.
To be fair, they might have learned that. Remember, there was like Silk Road and all that. Maybe the techniques the knowledge also transfers. It's not like when we're doing Aztecs.
But which way though? Which way did it go?
Yeah, good point. Yeah, and when we're doing Aztecs, of course, it's very much like that is completely like parallel evolution kind of thing, because there's no way they could have shared that knowledge. But yeah, we have a series on that you could check out. So the individual plates laced together in horizontal rows to be flexible as well as protective. That's a point for me. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, oh no, 100%.
Yeah. The next one is called scale barding. Scale barding is basically armoring your horse, and scale barding is when they have those, individual units as opposed to like one singular plate. It's like if you can imagine a horse armored, you're probably thinking of scale barding maybe, and if you're watching, it's on the screen as an example. So this is interesting. So it's it results in more deflections and is more protective generally. But as we said earlier, the Varangians, they didn't really use horses like so much, as far as I could find. And you could argue that, okay, fine, but the rest of the Byzantines would have used this. The cataphracts definitely use this. It's far more famous.
Yep.
Yeah, but the scale barding is an upgrade you get in the Varangian arsenal, right? The Varangian smithing thing, which means it's only for Varangians. So it's kind of like it's an odd one. It fits the Byzantine Empire, maybe less so the Varangians.
Point down.
Point down, you think? I was going to say barely, I guess. I'd give it to them. Maybe I'm more generous than you.
I'm not, because the fact is you're putting it on a unit which we're describing should have been more of a raiding style unit. And if a raiding style unit wouldn't use this armor as likely, because it's not the style of a raiding unit,
then it
shouldn't be done.
Yeah, good point. Next one, you're going to like this one, Rob. The Rumfire swords. The Rumfire. So, I'm not going to talk about this one because we covered it in the Thracians episode. The first Thracians one, I believe. And Rob talked all about it. It's a really awesome sword from the Thracians era.
Love it.
It's not even a sword. It's like a cross between a sword and a spear. It's really long. Check that out. In terms of its accuracy to all the way this far into the future, into the Eastern Roman Empire, well, it's interesting. It still would have been in the region, and the Varangians still could have come into contact with it. There's no evidence really to suggest that they were running around in full force with these. All it does in the game is it gives you extra damage. I think it feels like a bit of a stretch to research it like for a civ that revolves around Varangians and stuff, but it is in the region, right? So it's not impossible.
I feel like it's a stretch, and I feel like it's they learnt about it when they were doing Age of Empires 2 and for the Thracians.
Yeah,
and they were just like, that weapon was cool. Chuck it in there.
That's a good point.
Because when I did all my research about it, it mostly did die out. Obviously the Eastern Roman Empire, which is what the Byzantine Empire is, they would have, when they were in some fight and they used it a little bit, but then it died out. I think it was long gone really a lot of before this point, because it was way more complicated than the other blades were necessary. The benefits were so niche that it wasn't worth it.
I thought you'd appreciate that in that image. I've got him fighting a Roman.
Yeah.
I know on the AoE2 image there, it looks like I've cut the sword off, but actually the AoE2 image doesn't show the whole sword, which I'm not gonna rip on AoE2 here, but like it's a Rumfire unit, and the whole identity of the sword is that it's really long. Cut it off. Anyway, whatever. So let's keep going. And I'm speaking of Chronicles, by the way, AoE Chronicles.
Yeah, so I'm doing a point down for that one.
Point down. All right, fair enough. Next one. So next one is Ruinous Blinding. It sounds almost something more of like that of Dawn of War or something. And Ruinous Blinding it feels very fantasy. There's no real historical thing here, but it's more like arrows I can't see, which is why on the image I put like 300.
That's a great scene for 300, by the way.
Arrows that block out the sun, kind of
thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's fine. Like Ruinous Blinding, it's a game. I guess you can arrows can sort of block your vision, maybe. I don't know. So I'd give it a pass. What about you?
I mean, we have discussed before about the fact that volleys in the true sense of it aren't really historically accurate, where people wouldn't just all in unison shoot a shot. Generally,
The House
it
of
would be
Lancaster
more done
series.
as a So I'm actually going to go with the. I think it should be another point down.
I'll take -1. No worries. That's all good. And I'm going to finish with one of my favorites, and this is called Poluta Savaf, whatever.
All right, yeah.
So Poluta Savaf or something, right? I've got an image of the Varangian Guard like showing the money.
Did you make this image? Because this is like such a weird one.
I found it and repurposed it. The actual Varangian is from a game, For Honor. For Honor 2, I think. It's a really, really awesome game, and they've added Varangians to the game. So he's from that, but then like the gold coin and stuff, I don't know. I use Canva. Anyway, so this is an Old Norse word, as you can tell from how difficult it is to say, for palace pillaging. And it is 100% relevant to the Varangians.
Oh, I know this story because I heard about it. But do you tell it?
It's so good. So when the Byzantine emperor would die, the Varangians had the unique right of running as fast as they could to the imperial treasury and taking as much gold and as many gems as they could carry. It was like part of their, it's like in their contract, oh yeah, you guys can come. When I die, come take all the money. I don't care about the empire after I go. So, this privilege enabled many Varangians to return home as wealthy men. And it's thought that this wealth that they'd returned to Scandinavia with is actually like one of the primary reasons which encouraged even more Scandinavians to enlist in the Varangian Guard. Because they'd see these guys coming home, they'd be like, whoa, like I'm just a farmer here and life sucks. And this guy's come with more wealth than I've never seen in my life. I could fight for a few years and come back. Why not? Let's go.
All right. So now I'm going to throw out there that it's actually more mythos than it is reality.
Ah, no, don't do this.
But it's a genuine story about it, but they can't find enough evidence to back it, is what I found. That they more found, because remember where I said before that they got more loot than the rest of the army. Yeah. That's how they got the riches. It wasn't actually from this. And there is a lot of story that happened in the later years about this being a thing, but they can't find. I was looking at some historical stuff where some historians talking about it.
I think that's fair. Yeah,
there's not really enough evidence to suggest that it truly did happen.
My research this episode was broad and less deep, whereas you've gone quite deep. So yeah, together we complement each other. But that is I still think that's a +1 point for me because it's clearly themed around.
No, absolutely. No. And the story of the time, we only go, we think this didn't happen. It may have happened.
And it's a game, and you're allowed to make games fun by taking liberties of it. Yeah. All right, so what's the final score?
Can you guess?
I think it's surely in the positive, right? Like 5?
Yeah. Exactly. It's 5.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
And you can't even have worked out beforehand because I changed some of the scoring.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Well, no, not changes. I disagree.
Yeah, of course, while we're going through it. Well, yeah, there you go. So, I think well done to the developers. Once again, just like when we were doing the House of Lancaster series, the more we look into stuff, the more you appreciate the efforts that go into it. And I hope that the next time you guys play this Civ and you click on one of these researches, maybe you click on butted chainmail, you're like, I know what that is. You know?
The empire was at its peak after Basil II, but the next emperor was his brother, who'd been co-emperor all of Basil's life. Remember when he was named emperor when he was 5? So whereas Basil had worked to consolidate power, build up the empire, Constantine couldn't really care less. When you think about it, for most of this guy's life, he just lived in the shadow of Basil, living a life of luxury.
He never learned the discipline and the reasons why it's important.
Because he didn't need to. He had this super successful brother who was running it all. He could be co-emperor and just sit back and, enjoy a life of luxury.
Nice.
So this is the start of the downtrend of the Byzantine Empire. And it's kind of really on the back of greed and ineptitude.
All right.
So I'm going to go over kind of 5 main things and I'll kind of finish off the story. So
sure.
Basil never married and had no children. And Constantine only had girls. So it kind of led to a lot of power struggles in the kind of the remainder of the story. And we always know that power struggles never mean a flourishing empire.
One of the funny things I heard about the Byzantine Empire, way of summarizing the story, is this. It goes, we've lost. We're so back. We've lost. We are so back. We've lost. Okay, we lost for real this time. That's pretty much how that goes.
And so the next thing I'd say is neglect of the army. So Basil's successors kind of diverted funds from the army to kind of court luxuries, church projects. They weren't really focused on that, and you know what that leads to? Loss of territory and military discipline. So
I was going to say they're more focused on keeping power as opposed to a flourishing an empire or stuff like that.
Yeah. And again, because they don't matter. If someone's there that goes, why do I care that we've lost some territory 1,000 miles away?
Yeah.
Probably a bit too far, but I'm still getting all. I'm wanting to use all this wealth so that I can enjoy it.
Yeah.
So they lost territory in Italy, the Balkans, the East. They were losing it all over the place. A rise in bureaucracy and aristocracy. So kind of civil officials and court factions kind of gained influence over governance because, again, Constantine didn't really care. He was relying on his aides and that sort of thing. So everyone was there trying to take their little bit of power. So, and again, the final thing, financial weakening. They inherited so much wealth from Basil and they just squandered it. Okay, so the next ruler after Constantine is his, because he didn't rule for very long before he died. It was like 3 years or something.
All right.
Is his daughter, who was Empress Zoe. But she was more of an Empress consort / mother during her years. So, because it was more of her husbands that ended up kind of, because again, as soon as she marries, they're the emperor.
Yeah.
There is a theory that she killed her first husband, who was actually chosen by her dad, and then she married her lover on the day of his death. As her second husband was dying, he convinced her to adopt his nephew, who as soon as he was crowned emperor, exiled Zoe.
Okay. Poor Zoe.
But the people were not happy, and they revolted, and they reinstated Zoe. And her sister, Theodora, who was exiled about a decade ago, was then kind of urged to return and rule alongside Zoe.
Okay. Oh, this is the story of the twin empresses.
The twin empresses. However, that only lasted 65 days.
Oh, is it? It's actually quite a short story.
Really short story. 65 days. Because Zoe married again. Another Constantine. Following Zoe's death, Theodora has retired to a covenant, and Constantine rules kind of solo. But after Constantine's death, Theodora, at the age of 74, is recalled to the throne for only 16 months. Before falling ill and dying at the age of 76.
It's quite old, to be fair, for that time period especially.
Exactly. And with her death, the Macedonian dynasty comes to an end.
Oh, really? Is that just how it ends? So what happens?
Because she herself had no kids.
So do you know how,
so
like...
it
went out with a whimper, not even a bang. Alright, so on to bonus topics. I wanted to tell you, do you know the difference between Byzantium, Constantinople, and of course Istanbul? And the clue is in the question.
As in, do I know the difference between the naming conventions?
Well, yeah.
As in the periods?
Sort of, the naming conventions, yeah. Because I was a bit like, sometimes I hear it referred to as Byzantium, sometimes I hear it referred to as Constantinople. I personally got a little bit confused in my research. So I looked it up, and it's interesting. So Byzantium, I should say, because that's what it was originally called, was founded around like 667 BCE, Herodotus says. And it was founded by the ancient Greeks, of course, and that's the origins of the city. And it wasn't called Constantinople until way later, 330 Common Era, when the Roman Emperor Constantine decided that Constantine the Great dedicated. Which
also probably was why there was a lot of people wanting to be called Constantine.
Yeah, I get Constantine. That one's fair. Yeah, I get that one. So it's kind of like when we're doing English House of Lancaster and everyone's Henry, like.
Yeah.
So Constantine
I think
the Great.
Basil as well has it's a religious connotation.
Probably.
Don't get mad. If someone knows more, just put a comment and let us know. But,
yeah, we've sort of sidestepped religion quite a lot here, but
yeah,
I think we had a little.
But it's actually really important to this, and that the one thing we didn't mention is the schism happened 2 years before the end of the Macedonian dynasty.
Yeah,
we ran out of time to look at it, but that is another major thing that happens during that time.
Huge thing. Orthodox Christianity splits from from the rest of Christianity. Basically.
Catholicism.
Yeah, Catholicism. This one. Anyway, So yeah, so Constantine the Great founds this new city. The city, sorry, doesn't found this. My apologies, I misspoke. He
Change the name.
changed the name. That's right, of Byzantium to become Constantinople, and he calls it his new capital of the Roman Empire. And then I've still got maybe another surprise for you, potentially. Potentially, now, you might know. Yeah, obviously the Ottomans came and they changed it to Istanbul. Actually, not quite. Can you guess roughly when the name actually changed?
Oh, I genuinely have no idea. I would have guessed it would have been maybe they stay with it for a bit and 1500s.
Nice try. 1930.
What?
Yeah, I know. I was like, wait, what? So they kept calling the Ottoman Empire was calling it Constantinople until the end of World War One, and when they formed the Turkish Republic, the Turkish government mandated a new name as part of the reforms. But even this, interestingly, Istanbul is not a Turkish word; it's a Greek word, and it means literally. I think it means to the city, and it's a way that the commoners and stuff, like the regular people, referred to Constantinople, and by that point, it had already been called Istanbul for so long, like informally, that changing the name.
So 1930 was the official point, rather than being it's been called that for a while, but it's not really.
Yeah, 1930s when they officially changed the name, but like by that point, just many generations had gone by, and because just generally people calling it that more and more. So yeah, the official name changed 1930, but the actual name change very gradual. Still a Greek name. That surprised me personally. Don't know. That's it. That's me.
Okay. So my bonus topic then is that I wanted to share a kind of a final couple things about the Varangian Guard that kind of didn't fit into the main storyline, but were kind of interesting bits.
Okay, nice. Go on.
So firstly, their most famous member, do you know who it is?
No, I don't know any of their names. I kind of imagine them as like faceless men because they're always wearing masks. Yeah.
It's Harold Hadrada. Do you know who that is?
No.
Okay. He became the commander of the Varangian Guard before becoming the king of Norway.
Oh, he goes home and becomes the king of Norway. Nice.
And Harold, he died in 1066, attempting to take the English throne from Harold Godwinson at the Battle of Stamford Bridge, a month before he was defeated by William the Conqueror at Hastings. So he was the Viking who came over that Harold Godwinson had to go up to fight before having to come down, and that's why part of the reason they lost to William the Conqueror is because they'd taken casualties and was tired and they had to rush down. So back to the Varangian Guard, one last little bit. It's after its initial creation, they were not necessarily Varangian people. Although Norse dominated their members, really interesting and also related to the previous story.
I know this, Anglo-Saxons.
After 1066,
yes,
a lot of their members were Anglo-Saxons because they were escaping from Britain.
I didn't actually. So I didn't know the reason why, but I remember catching a little snippet of that and being like, Varangians also composed a lot of Anglo-Saxons. I was like, oh, that's weird. What were our boys doing down there?
1066. So literally, it's Harold Hadrada, the most famous member of the Varangian Guard, caused the impact of them potentially losing to William the Conqueror, that then caused a lot of Anglo-Saxons to join the Varangian Guard.
That's crazy, isn't it? That's crazy. History, it all connects. It's amazing. The more we learn, the more we kind of can connect the dots